Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper. Guys, in this video today, I'm going to be talking with you about understanding clear discernment and judgment in the last days, and really breaking down narcissistic people versus empathic people. I know that narcissism and empathy is something that I've talked about a lot on this channel here in recent months in the past year. And it's starting to become more clear and clear to me that this has a huge role in people's lives in the last days. I'm going to cover 8 points in this video today to help you understand from examples I've seen and just from examples that in general, that whether I'd been there or not, these situations would have taken place. And I hope that it is a help to you, and I'm trying to break this video down today on as simple as layman terms as I can with everyone. Not that I'm better than anybody or lower than anybody. The only reason I know the things that I know is because I've seen these things. It's not, like I said, it's because I'm older and wiser than anybody. I've just seen this stuff. And I hope it's a help to everyone, because nobody was really there pointing it out to me for years. And I had to actually go search these things out to see what the world's going on. So with that said, guys, I'm going to get my notepad here. And I wrote down these notes because, like I said, these are some powerful examples. The first example I'm going to use, and these are secular things and spiritual things. Some of them is a combination. But there was this job that I worked years ago, and I done loss prevention, and I was really good at it. Dude, I mean, I'm not one to be like, oh yeah, that I was this or that, but I'm like, man, I was good at it. I even got employee of the month one month. I was so good at it. But we threw a lot of people out of this retailer for theft and all sorts of stuff, tag switching, you name it. Threw people out on the inside. Heck, I even threw a guy out one day because of sexual inappropriateness toward a woman in the store. That was crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, there's creepers and pedophiles and sexual assault people everywhere. You got to be sexual predators. You got to watch these people. But what was weird to me is that I started having a lot of discernment and clear mental judgment about what was going on with a lot of people just by interaction in the retail world. As time passed, a employee, I won't say male or female, we'll just leave that as it is, but I want to be as vague with this as possible, because if people that were previously employed me are watching this, they would know exactly who and what I'm talking about. But the individual started getting all the incentives at work. Like if you try to push a certain item here or a certain service or whatever, they were just blowing it out of the margins. And we throwing people out for theft, whether it be cash items, card items, and etc. And I went to this meeting one morning, and you know how your spirit gets troubled. I remember this feeling, and I'll get into it in a later point about leaving Babylon, and especially in my testimony coming up next week. If you want to check the link, I'll put it in this video whenever it's done as well. But it seemed like something wasn't right, because most people that worked really hard, their stats would be here and say this person's stats was so far beyond it. It was just unreal. And it made one question, what is really going on here? But I never could pinpoint what the deal was, but something always seemed off in my spirit. And whenever you feel that something is not right, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not right. I found out later, after I left that employer, that individual was terminated for theft. And it was because they were stealing from certain services from the store. And then things started to become crystal clear to me what was going on. The problem with that situation is I had the judgment that something wasn't right. I didn't have the proper discernment. And this individual had narcissistic character traits because they presented themselves to be a believer and a good Christian, while at the same time exhibiting traits that seemed questionable. And so we all at times are unworthy of the kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, I am far from perfect. Far from perfect. I got a lot of stuff I need to sort out in my life. But as a servant and as somebody that's trying to help other people and point these things out for what they are, because, hey, we're all going to be judged for the things that we tell one another. You look back on that situation myself, and I say, okay, I knew something wasn't right. I felt something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Now, what you need to do is just back away, because eventually it's always going to come to light. And that's going to be point number 8 we talk about, is the withdrawal factor from everything. And it'll make sense when we get through the other 7 points, why I'm going to hammer on that one just itself. But after time, if you give, there's that saying, if you give people enough rope, they'll hang themselves. And when you see a situation like that, I just didn't go around that person much anymore. And then after the fact, come to find out later on, they were terminated for stealing. And it reminded me of that movie that had Jessica Simpson in it called Employee of the Month. Because the guy was so fast, it's just moving stuff along the line. And whenever they figured it out at the end, he was throwing 1 or 2 items behind him as he was scanning the other stuff. And he was cheating the system. He was pretty much theft. And if you look, these people, a lot of these people, that they seem to have all the accolades, they seem to be so high up in life, it's because somehow, some way, they're cheating the system, or they're lying, or they're being deceptive while putting on a face of righteousness. Guys, I'm telling y'all, I'm a sinner. I ain't got nothing to hide from y'all. Y'all want to know anything about my life? Just freaking fire away. But the thing about it is there is people out there that are in high positions of authority and power in this world. And they look one way, but when it all comes down to the nitty-gritty, they're not who they're supposed to be. And we see this now with sex trafficking, pedophilia, all the stuff that's going on in the high echelons of government itself. I mean, that just can play right into point 1. But that's an example of having the judgment at the time, but not having a clear discernment. And that there's nothing wrong with having righteous judgment. I didn't judge the person that they were wrong. I just judged that something wasn't right. Something didn't feel right. And in the end, it wasn't. And that's why you got to have the discernment with judgment, because people judge people all the time. I get judged all the time. But then whenever I meet them head on, I'm like, all right, well, let's sort this out. The discernment level comes into play real quick, and then they discern that their judgment was wrong and they can't fight that. And you see this on a lot of points whenever you contend with people for the faith, for the truth on things too. If you always will stay just to the scripture alone and not feelings or thinking, but just thus saith Yah, you'll always win. All right, point number 2. Now, this is an A and B part, and this is just pretty much secular things and faith-based. This is a mixture too. There's an A and a B to this. We're going to talk about the A portion. People reject truth because they don't understand it. It's not that they couldn't go look into it. It's not that it can't be explained. It's that they just straight up reject it because at the time they don't understand it. And they've been in their own motion for so long, they won't come to the truth. For example, people that come out of Sunday church, the next thing they think is go to Saturday worship. But then people that's honest heart look and they're like, whoa, Father's calendar and Rome's calendar ain't even one and the same. I've got to put away the whole calendar system. Or another example, which we'll get into in Flat Earth in the next point. Actually, I'm sorry, in point number 5. But, because I've got an example from that situation just recent. But people will reject a clear truth just because at that time, they don't understand it. Now me, whenever somebody presents to me something and I don't fully understand it at the time, but the potential in the scripture is there for it to be correct, I table it and I research it and then I apply it. Table it, research it, apply it. Because the thing is, I don't want to reject the spirit of truth, because I feel like that if you reject progressing light that is coming to you, no further light will be revealed until you look at that light that is switches in front of you. And that is a personal opinion. But I've seen so many people, they'll accept a light of a truth. And the next thing you know, they'll come to another truth. And like I've seen this with brothers and sisters I fellowship with in our own fellowship. We were studying the flat earth separately from each other. And then the next time we seen each other, everyone, that was the conversation. I'm just like, mind blown. I'm like, everybody come to that conclusion and accepted that on their own study. Tell me that wasn't the spirit of truth that was in that, okay? I mean, it's just, and I've seen this many, many other times on other examples. But the part B of that is that also people will accept error because they don't understand it. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, we always got to have judgment and discernment. And the only way we're ever going to have any of that in the last days, and myself included, is just go to the Word. I mean, you can pray up all you can do everything you can to remove yourself from society, but if we don't know what is coming spiritually, scripturally, we're not going to be prepared. And too many people turn over their mental judgment and discernment to pastors, to teachers, mores, and all these people, preachers, pastors, teachers, all these institutions, these televangelists and everything, and these movements and just all these different things. And my thing is I tell you and have told you ever since I produced this channel, don't take a word I say as truth. You go search it out for yourself. Now that doesn't make me exempt from at some point going into error. But what it does is what you do go look into. If you find it is true, then you know it is true because thus saith Yahweh in his word, not because Pastor Bob said it or Evangelist Tim or Moray Andre. You know, somebody told you, but you found it out for yourself. And that's the thing, guys. And look, if you don't think, to show you a depth of how like off the rails people can get, if you don't take clear discernment judgment for yourself and try to walk us out on your own, you can have the David Koresh with the Waco situation, the Jim Joneses don't drink the Kool-Aid. Heck, in a recent example, and like, I think the guy got busted like 2 years ago, but that R.G. Starr guy, there you go, sexual assault and all this other stuff. And it's like, just because these people come to you preaching something feel good or can completely twist people's mind, if you don't have clear judgment discernment, look at the situations that can arise. These are clear examples of situations that got completely awry because people didn't take clear discernment judgment from the scripture. And also the narcissism that is exhibited in those individuals and the empathicness of people that were deceived and give themselves over that. And that's why as empathic people, you should have definite clear discernment and judgment using the word, because there's people out there that all they want to do is feed on your energy and ruin your life. Now, I'll give you another example here at point 3. And guys, I don't know how long this video go today. Look, I hope it's a help to somebody throughout all these points. And just trying to give you a wake up. Is I fellowshipped with somebody over the years. And we parted ways for a while. Just disagreement on a few things. And, you know, later on, I just, one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to go see them. I'm going to mend fences, love on them. And I went, talked with them, tried my best to, you know, build bonds of faith with them, fellowship and brotherhood. And from that point forward, it seemed like that every time I ever fellowshipped with them, it seemed like they always had to make certain to bring to my attention every character flaw in my life. And some that wasn't even legit. Like, if I haven't, and I would even be like, you know what, I do have these flaws in my life. I need to work on this. But then there was things that wasn't even the case. And what irritated me is there's nothing, you know, say what does the scripture say about a wise man rebuke him, he'll thank you, rebuke a fool, and he'll hate you, I believe is what the scripture says. And I don't want to misinterpret scripture, but look that verse up for yourself. Rebuke a wise man, just Google that. But the thing that gets me is it was every time that I fellowshipped with them, after pretty much we mended fences, that it was always brought to my attention how much I had issues in my life and how much I need to make corrections, as at the same time I was always trying to uplift that person, love on that person, and encourage that person. And it showed me, I believe, the beginnings of narcissism compared to empathy. Because I had seen lots of examples of this in my life, but I really didn't know what I was dealing with. But as I started to look into these things, I started to actually see what I was dealing with. And I just withdrew my company. And even after withdrawing my company, the person continued to just like take personal attack at me. And it was clear to me at that point in time that the best thing you can do is whenever you have the discernment and judgment that people are not wanting to build with you anymore, you need to withdraw your company. And in business, if you're not going forward, you're going backward. Well, the same thing in faith. If you're not going forward with people, you're not building with people, you're going backward, and there's no need to be around them. It's just a drain on your energy, and you need to withdraw from them. And this goes for everything: fellowships, family, everything, guys. I mean, if you're trying to grow in your walk, and that ministry, or your family, your friends, everybody, if they're not trying to grow with you, you don't need them. And I hate to say that, but like Messiah is very plain about, you know, forsaking all others for him. You know, I mean, like, hey, you're going to have to put away family. You're going to have to put away jobs. You're going to have to put away friends. You're going to have to put away church houses. You're going to have to do a lot of stuff because these people ain't going to walk it out. And you've got to have the judgment and the clear discernment to understand that and walk away from it. Now, fourth example, infidelity is something that is huge in our world today. Now, for me, I just don't buy into this Disney love thing. I've always considered that a relationship between a man and woman, for example, is that a man has certain needs in his life, a woman has certain needs in her life. A man should shelter and love and be a kind companion to his woman. She should take care of him, meet his basic needs, and help be a helpmate to him and a safe refuge from the world. Because when a man comes home, his home doesn't need to be a war zone. She needs to be the thing that he looks forward to coming home to. And you build that. It's not like a Disney fantasy. They always cut the scene at the Disney video whenever the two fall in love. They never show the years progressing that, all the dramas, divorces, and everything else, And the thing is with relationships, and this, I know I've covered a lot of ground in this video today, but like discernment, judgment, you see nowadays the statistics for relationships in the last day. And I've seen them recently. And I'm not trying to beat up on anybody I know, but my heart actually hurts for these people. I've seen people over the years that not only have taken spouses here domestically, but have taken spouses from abroad. And a lot of women in other nations, people think that, well, they won't be narcissistic. They won't be like women of America. But the problem is when you bring something that's outside of its realm into a realm of something new that's full of narcissism, infidelity, and wickedness, that will mash into that and become that. And I've seen many men that have gotten a wife from a far off land, brought them to America, and then later come to find out that spouse was infidelatrous toward them, an adulteress, and and then their marriage fell apart. And I feel so sorry for them, but it's a consistent theme. And also here in America, with the rate of infidelity, it is a consistent theme. And a man and woman, a good Torah-observant woman, those that wear their fringes, and you can clearly see that they're a modest woman and love Yah. And then those men that are honest, upright men, those of us that are the few, I'd say less than 10% in humanity, that are decent, upright people, you cannot help but step back and withdraw from the situation and be very withdrawn from relationships. Even if you're married at this point, even if you're getting married, even if you're looking for relationships, or even if you're not, you cannot help but see in this last day, with clear discernment, judgment, that our generation's unlike any generation on this earth. I mean, like just 100 years ago, marriages and relationships were nothing like before. I mean, with the rise of feminism, with the rise of social media, with the rise of all the wickedness that the media presents today, and with the rise in sin in our world today, things are not the same. And we've got to have clear discernment, judgment, and we can't get wrapped up in the fact of how the world is today. We've still got to try to focus and operate as things always was, but have the discernment, judgment to know that we're not dealing with normal times. Because people, if they walk out of your life, don't keep trying to pull them back in. Just withdraw from them and let them go, because obviously they need to go so that you can grow. All right, now, number 5. I want to give you this example. I said about flat earth earlier. The other day, the Most High taught me something, and I know this was his working, is that I posted on Facebook about, to my friends and family, I said, a person will say to a child, believe in Santa, and also believe in Messiah, but they will later come back into that same child, and say Santa wasn't real. What does that leave the child's mind to think about the other individual, about Messiah? And I said, with a question mark, don't answer me. I said, just answer the Most High Yah. In other words, don't worry about giving me an answer. You just take it up with the Most High. And people said, of course, the word feel. And there's always feel and think and, their personal feelings and all this stuff. And it's like, nobody gave a clear answer. Nobody just said, I think a couple of people that are in the way answered, obviously, the clear answer, that would mess up that child's mind to possibly not believe in Messiah. This is why we shouldn't teach people, children, pagan traditions and Christmas and all this other garbage, Halloween, etc. But I had a family member attack me about being a flat earther. Now, I've shared with them the scriptures about flat earth, the facts about flat earth, and they could go research for themselves. But literally earlier in that day, before I done those things, I took a coworker to work, and we were eating lunch, or on the way to eat lunch together, and spoke to me about, we were talking about a lot of red pill situations and stuff in life, and he mentioned to me, he said, well, at least you're not a flat earther person. And I was like, well, and then they looked at me like, oh, no, you are. And because of the rapport that I built with that person and the respect that we have each other, they said, you know what? You got 3 minutes. Sell me on it. I said, give the court, I appreciate the court of judgment giving me a few moments if the defense may now present their case. And I literally, by the end of the day, they were gearing up to go do their own research to become a flat earther. And the thing is, it's not about if the world's square or round or triangle or whatever, or a donut. The thing about it is it's to be honest to the truth. Now, that can apply to the Father's calendar, the Hebrew Israelites, the flat earth, the trumpets, the commandments. Oh my goodness, there's so many things, just being honest to the spirit of truth. But the thing about it is the discernment about that and the judgment taught me that day, the Most High taught me that day, that no matter how hard you try with family and friends, no matter how hard you try with many people, people that do not want to accept will not only reject, but they will consistently always be there to combat you at every chance they can, because of the narcissism that is present in their spirit. And no matter how empathic you are, no matter how much you try to reason with people, no matter how you try to give people, if people come to me and handed me all the knowledge that I have been shown over the years, if they had gave that to me years ago, I'd be like, just going through it. I'd probably be like up midnight, losing sleep, trying to learn all the things I've learned today. And other people's not like that. And you've got to come to an acceptance of that. Number 6, we live in the last days where that soon the mark of the beast will be implemented, I really believe. Very soon. And, you're going to have to take the microchip. You're going to have to worship a certain way on a certain day. Do what the man of sin in Rome, the Pope, as the designated world leader soon, I believe. All this stuff, you're going to end up having to do things a certain way. And you've got to understand that you've got to have clear discernment judgment in these last days, that you need to become your own person. You need to become self-employed. You need to learn a skill. You need to learn a trade. You need to learn to do something that the Most High God gave you a talent to do, and work for yourself, because the time is coming where you're going to be just cast away. And you say, well, Luke, that won't happen to me. I've been in my job 50-some years on blah, 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 blah. I seen a gentleman the other day when I went through the grocery store. I was getting food. And I don't think he recognized me, and I made certain that he couldn't recognize me because I was just observant. And I mean, no disrespect to the gentleman, but he used to have a very, very good paying job at a corporate job where I worked also. And I guess he was terminated, and the people that took over the place were a real trip to work for. And I didn't really like them at all. And I imagine that they terminated his employment, and then he was now working at a grocery store as a janitor. And he used to be an extremely, extremely skilled tradesman. And the thing that I took away from that is nobody is exempt from being expended from any enterprise, any company. And we've got to have clear discernment and judgment that the time is coming that if we don't do as Babylon says, we're going to be cut loose. And then we're going to starve to death or be put in situations that will land us in prison or the grave. And we've got to be prepared, and that's why prepping is so important. That's why personal independence is so important. That's why that's learning to fish, hunt, gather your own food, grow your own crops, make your own power, build your own shelter. I mean, all these things, guys, it's just mission critical, because the time's coming when we're going to be put in a spot. Now, the last point, number 7, before I get to the final thing I want to say on 8, is I used to argue with people in hopes that they would see. It wasn't about Luke wanted to win the argument. Oh my goodness, it hurt me in the beginning to know certain things that I knew, because it was going to change my life completely. And it did change my life completely. I had no idea the loss that I was going to lose for the truth. But with time, I would continue to argue with people as I progressed in my journey to try to help them wake up and come over and see. Because if I just kept feeling if I argued hard enough and pressed the matter hard enough, they would open their eyes and see and be converted. And that's not how it works. That's just not how it works, guys. you have to just withdraw from that and back off. And that gets into my last point, is the best thing that you can ever do in these last days is step out and be set apart away from people. Is you just got to withdraw from people's company, whether that's family, friends, business, religion, whatever it is. You've got to come up out of Babylon, and those other items I just mentioned are right there in Babylon. And we've got to have as clear a discernment as we possibly can in the day in which we live, and the judgment to do the right call, because every decision we make guides our path. And I've been thinking about a lot of these things over the past year. Wrote down notes. I want to share this with you, just some things I've observed from my walk. And no matter what you do every day, the first thing anybody should do is get up, like I try my best to do every day, is thank the Most High for another day for the breath of life. But the second most important thing we should have is a clear plan every day for our life, a short-term and a long-term plan. And that should be the guiding light for what we're doing for the rest of our life, so that whenever these things, all these situations I've expressed and everything come, you should have clear discernment and judgment how that's going to affect that clear, straight path that you're going to try to go down. Because every decision we make affects that ultimate plan. So guys, I hope this video is a help to you. As always, till we see you again here at 7 Trumpets Prayer Channel, I hope the Most High Baruch you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friend, in Yahushua's name.